Okay, brothers, today we are back with more Warhammer 40K content. Today we find out where are the old ones now. Now, we've had some encounters with the old ones already in a few of the videos we've done. In the introduction to the timeline from exploring Warhammer, we found out they were the first race that were very technologically advanced. You know, they could use the warp to their advantage, but they were wiped out, or they had a beef with, was it the Tau, and the Tau decided to sell themselves out and then destroy them basically. And no one knows where they are. Did they get extinct? Did they leave the galaxy? No one knows. But today we're going to find out what this channel One Mind Syndicate has to say on this topic. This should be very interesting because I've been asking this question for a while. And yeah, man, before we get into this video, be sure to leave that like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. And of course, you can suggest me any videos you want. And yeah, let's get into this video.
Welcome back to another episode of 40 Facts About the 40K Universe. I am your host, Gershwin, and you are watching One Mind Syndicate. Today we continue talking about the old ones as we talk about their whereabouts. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. We post Warhammer 40K content every single day. And if you don't know who the old ones are, check out our 40 Facts on the old ones for the explanation on them. But with that said, let's get into 40 facts on the whereabouts of the Old Ones. The Old Ones were an ancient and technologically advanced intelligent race of cold-blooded reptilians who established an interstellar empire across the Milky Way galaxy, tens of millions of standard years before the development of most of the other sentient species currently existing in the galaxy. The Old Ones were inherently patient as a race, and before attempting to journey out into interstellar space, they made extensive studies of astronomy and astrophysics, which led them to eventually discover the Immaterium. At the time, the Immaterium was unaffected by the psychic emissions of other intelligent races.
I didn't know they were lizards. I did not know they were lizards, ladies and gentlemen. So yeah, already done something new.
And so it was a calm and steady realm of existence. The Old Ones were able to exploit the Immaterium, allowing them to travel across the galaxy at whim through the development of warp space tunneling technology and a network of warp gates called the Webway that instantaneously connected their far-flung interstellar colonies. After the Old Ones solved the puzzle for interstellar transportation, they turned to the puzzle of life. The Old Ones began manipulating and infusing sentient life as they traveled the galaxy. The Milky Way galaxy became dotted with hundreds of sentient life forms that owed their existence to the Old Ones. Most of the races that the Old Ones created are now the powerful and numerous factions in the Milky Way galaxy. Most notable of the Old Ones' creations was the Eldar race. The Old Ones sculpted the Eldar into existence, manipulating either aquatic organisms or avian creatures.
This man has a sword that is as tall as he is. This cannot be effective in battle, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, his arms are kind of, what the hell? The arms are kind of short, and he has a cat. But yeah, we're actually doing a video on the Eldar probably tomorrow, so yeah.
Found on their travel into the tall, elegant humanoid creatures they are known as today. Other accounts tell that the Old Ones manipulated a space slug to create the Eldar race. The reason the Old Ones chose a slug as the primordial Eldar is because of the slug's natural psychic abilities. The Old Ones were specifically looking to give birth to a powerful psychic species. This origin story is often brushed away as absurd myth by the Eldar, because they see themselves as species too great to be descendants from slugs. The Old Ones furthered their experimentation with life when they created the Quark race, which would later be renamed the Orcs. At a time when the Old Ones were in need of an army, they turned to genetic manipulation to create the Quarks. They manipulated life to create a creature that harbored the genetic traits of both animal and fungal life forms. And it is this unusual biology that gave this new race the ability to break down and repair damaged tissue at an incredible rate.
I did not know that they created orcs, ladies and gentlemen. I did not know that. This is news.
Also infused the Quarks with a natural ability to subconsciously tap into the collective psychic emanation of their own kind and use that energy to feed, essentially going without food or water, but increasing in strength and power. This is known by Imperial savants as Wa energy in the orcs. The Old Ones also genetically modified the Krork to possess an underlying informational blueprint, allowing a Krork to understand medicine and engineering without having any background knowledge on the matter. This is why orcs today can assemble battle wagons or perform augmentative procedures similar to the way a baby naturally knows how to breathe. Even the human race felt the helping hand of the Old Ones, as they were behind prehistoric apes' miraculous evolutionary leap, speeding up the process to create modern man.
Was that picture from Planet of the Apes?
It's apparent that the Old Ones gave birth to the galaxy's greatest beings, but many of these gifts of life did not emerge from the kindness of their heart, but rather necessity. For years before the creation of these races, the Old Ones were at war with the Necrontyr. The Necrontyr were the humanoid species that...
The Necrontyr is who they were fighting. My bad, ladies and gentlemen. I said Tau, didn't I? Necrontyr
would become the Necrons. Before the Necrontyr lost their souls to the Catan, they were an interstellar empire that could rival any of today's empires. Unfortunately, their empire fractured into dynasties and began to crumble. The ruling council of the Necrontyr Empire, the Triarch, realized that the only hope of unity lay in conflict with an external enemy. The Old Ones were a prospective foe, powerful enough to bind the feuding Necrontyr dynasties to a common cause. Such a war was simple enough to justify, for the Necrontyr had always been angry at the Old Ones' refusal to share the secrets of eternal life, so the Triarch declared war on the Old Ones. At that same time, they offered amnesty to any secessionist dynasties who willingly returned to the fold. Thus, lured by the spoils of victory and the promise of immortality, the separatist Necrontyr realms abandoned their wars of secession, and the war in heaven began. The Necrontyr war was futile. The Old One's psychic powers, advanced weaponry, and warp travel outmaneuvered the Necrontyr, and they were forced back to the remote world in the outer rim of the galaxy's halo stars. The fury of the Necrontyr cooled over thousands of years of imprisonment, but they turned their hatred against all life rather than just the Old Ones. A twist of fate led the Necrontyr to discover the Catan, who dwelled within the hearts of stars across the galaxy, including the Necrontyr's own home star. The Necrontyr offered the Catan's physical bodies, made out of living metal called necrodermis, and renewed their ancient war with the Old Ones, now with the added might of their powerful Catan star gods. With the Catan and the Necrons fighting as one, the Old Ones were now doomed to defeat. Glutted on the life force of Necrontyr, the empowered Catan were unstoppable and unleashed forces beyond comprehension. Planets were razed, suns extinguished, and whole star systems devoured by black holes, called into being by the reality-warping powers of the star gods. Necrontyr legions assailed the Old Ones in every corner of the galaxy. It was at this time that the Old Ones turned back to their life-giving powers and used their great scientific skills to genetically engineer intelligent beings with an even stronger psychic link to the warp, hoping to create servants with the capabilities of channeling psychic powers to defend themselves. It is at this point that it becomes clear that the creation of the Eldar, Krork, Rashan, Nib, and even humans were a direct response to the Necron threat. These races were specifically created to be used as weapons against the Necron race. The Old One's psychically empowered servants spread across the galaxy, battling the advanced Necrontyr technology with the psychic power of their warp-spawn sorcery. But it was the very weapons that the Old Ones created that eventually caused their downfall. The growing pains and collective psychic flaws of the younger races threw the untapped psychically reactive energies of the Immaterium into disorder. The maelstrom of souls unleashed into the Immaterium by the carnage of the war in heaven coalesced into the previously formless energies of the warp. Older entities that had existed within the immaterium transformed into terrifying psychic predators, tearing at the souls of vulnerable psychers as their own environment was torn apart and reforged into the realm of chaos. Ultimately, beset by the implicable onset of the Catan and the calamitous warp-spawn perils they had themselves mistakenly unleashed, the Old Ones were defeated, scattered, and finally forced to flee the galaxy to seek a new haven outside of the Milky Way galaxy. 60 million Terran years, the Old Ones have been in exile, and in their absence, the Milky Way galaxy has grown even more turbulent with the encroaching chaotic warp taint that was created by the Old Ones, and their mortal enemies, the Necrons, are still destroying life. When the Old Ones found their new home away from the chaos of the Milky Way galaxy, they began on their path to redemption by creating a new biological weapon that would correct their mistakes. The Old Ones did what they knew best, created life. They worked on building an army made up of a completely new life form, a life form that would stop the turbulent chaos they created and prepare the Milky Way galaxy for the Old Ones' return. If the Old Ones were to return to the Milky Way galaxy and successfully claim victory over chaos and the Necrons, the Old Ones' new army would have to possess traits that best countered the threats that pushed them out of the Milky Way galaxy in the first place. Every creature in this new army would have to emit a power that would nullify such.
Don't tell me they created Tyranids, ladies and gentlemen, as well. I don't need to know that. They don't need to do that. Don't do that.
Psychic energy. This power would have to be instantaneous to guarantee protection from chaos at all times, but at the same time, it could not interfere with the Old One's own psychic abilities. The solution to this was a synaptic transmission that worked to disrupt psychic powers, and was weak enough on its own to have the Old Ones work and interact with their new creation. But once collectively gathered, the transmission would be able to cloud any psychic energy. The Old Ones had done this before, in the form of Wa energy. Wa energy works the same way in that it is not only a force that is weak on its own, and begins to grow stronger and stronger the more creatures that are there, but as a byproduct, it also works to organize large groups into hierarchies. Old Ones took this power a step further. Whereas Wa energy tells orcs to follow the biggest and baddest, this new technology not only gave instructions on who to follow, but it is also synaptically connected to all creatures, so that the higher life forms can control and manipulate the rest. Because the Old Ones had no way of knowing what type of new threat they would encounter upon returning to the Milky Way galaxy, their biological weapon required the ability to adapt to any circumstance encountered on the battlefield. This meant the weapon had to not only counter tactics employed by new enemies, but it must also counter new weapons possessed by the unknown inhabitants of the Milky Way galaxy. The best way to do this was to create a life form that would be able to speed up the process of natural selection and evolve counters into their own DNA. Most importantly, the Old Ones wanted to create a weapon that could survive on its own, much like the Eldar and the Orcs survived in the Milky Way galaxy after their departure. To do this, the Old Ones gave their weapons sentient life, and this new army, this weapon, is the Tyranids.
I knew it,
Tyranids are perfectly designed to fulfill the
idiots, absolute idiots. The Old Ones, before this video I thought they were good guys. I thought, they're basically gods, right? They can live forever. They created all kinds of life, but it's that whole age-old paradox again. They fucked up, kind of like a Magnus, like with Magnus in the last video we watched yesterday. They fucked up. They created orcs who decided, I don't know what they were doing during the war against the Necron tier. They created Eldar, helped humans. They created all this, they created all that chaos of fighting, and as a result, they ruined the warp and technically made chaos gods, and now they made Tyranids, which I'm assuming they control, right?
Old Ones' goal of returning the Milky Way galaxy to their control. They have the shadow and the warp, created by the Old Ones to fight the psychic menace they accidentally created. Their adaptability is the result of the Old Ones' mastery of the process of life. The Old Ones are so advanced that they are able to use natural selection and evolution, the very laws that govern life, to bend it to their own will. The Tyranid hive mind allows them to work independently from a command structure, meaning that the Old Ones do not have to enter the Milky Way galaxy. They simply point their weapon and shoot. This is something that has been seen time and time again on the battlefield. As weapon technology advances, the farther away the user gets from the danger. Tyranids do not hold territory. They simply roll through planets, leaving behind empty husks of rocks, always advancing and always consuming. There were 2 reasons for this. The first is because the Old Ones want to starve out the Chaos Gods. The Old Ones understood the dangers of doing battle with the denizens of the warp. Victory would be impossible. The Chaos Gods could manipulate time and space to create a never-ending war. But what the Old Ones could do is cut off the warp from their fuel source.
So their thinking is, they know the biggest threat is the Chaos Gods, because you can't fight them and win. Basically, you just can't fight them and win. You need to cut off the source, which is obviously humans, because if you fight the Chaos Gods, obviously the warp and that dimension has no concept of time and space, so you could literally be in there for what feels like 10 minutes, where it's actually years and years and years, right? We covered that in another video. So their thinking is, we're going to wipe out all life, all the orcs, all the Eldar, everyone we created, so there's no emotions anymore, which means the warp ceases to exist, or ceases to be crazy, because the gods will die with no thought, right?
Sentient
no
life.
Emotion.
With the destruction of all life in the Milky Way galaxy, the Old Ones hoped to calm the warp back down into a state similar to that of the past, before the Chaos Gods. A state that the Old Ones could manipulate to restore the webway. The second reason the Tyranids leave behind barren worlds is because they are purposefully creating an empty galaxy. The Tyranids are creating an empty slate for the Old Ones to return and rebuild to their own liking. The Tyranids are a redemptionist force. The Old Ones believe that it is their purpose to return the Milky Way galaxy to what it once was, long before it was polluted by war. And it is the Tyranid race that is being used as the tool to cleanse the galaxy of the filth created by the war in heaven. And those are 40 facts on the whereabouts of the Old Ones. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Comment down if you actually do believe in the theory that the Old Ones created the Tyranids. It fits perfectly with what where the inspiration for the Tyranids came from. They came from the Alien series, and just like you saw in the Prometheus movie, the alien being, the creature, was created as a weapon that got out of hand. The Old Ones in that storyline would be the big white guys, the pale, muscular dudes who sacrificed themselves to basically spread life throughout the galaxy. So the Old Ones kind of fulfill that same role, and GW got inspiration from that story with the Tyranids, and I feel like the Old Ones are the perfect example. I love telling the story, and I love talking about this theory at the same time, because it really puts into perspective where all of the other races fall. It is the Necrons and the Old Ones. All the other races that followed were created to defeat the Necrons, except with the exception of the Tau. The Tau kind of just popped up. Check out our video on the theory.
Okay, so that is a pretty interesting theory, man. That's a pretty interesting theory. I like that theory. It's pretty interesting, man. You guys let me know what you think about that. Also, be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you are new, and I'll see you all in the next one.